1. I'm calling this meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we will have a moment of silence. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the superintendent's report. Mr. Superintendent.
Good evening, Ms. Watts and board members and community members. It's become like a tradition now. Every time we're highlighting a few things that's happening in our great district. I just want to start by sharing with you a quick video. I don't know if you know, over the summer, right after the end of the school year, we had a lot of different camps, a lot around STEM and robotics and things like that. And I think one of the coolest things we had, one of the coolest camp we had was what's called coding for minions. And we had kids, let me make sure, we had kids as young as kindergartners actually coding and programming. So I want to make sure that I share this video with you, but let me see what's wrong here. For whatever reason, it's not cooperating. Can you see it?
That's Alicia. She's on the cover today.
It was like playing the sound, the audio, but no video.
It's not working.
With hers. Not with Alicia. Alicia's good. put it. She can see everybody. What? Adjust the time, what?
Oh, because you know how you track the time from beginning to end for each item? On this one, because it hasn't started.
Last time.
Is it working, Wanda? The sound?
Technical difficulties.
Can Lisa hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I can hear you all. You're good.
There. She should be able to hear us now.
I think both on Dr. McMahon también a veces sí, Dr. McMahon. Did you get Dr.
No, that was, no, not yet. Alicia's good.
Yeah, Lisa's good now. Oh, here's the Dr. McMahon. Turn it around a little bit and see if the mic can go straight to them.
I apologize for the issue.
It's working now.
Yeah, sorry. So, as I said, this is one of the camps we had over right after the end of the school year, and it was a great success. So these are what you're going to be watching is kindergartners, right? Our kindergarten students.
Coding is a way of showing computers or little robots things that we want them to do. We have robots that will clean our carpets and our floors. Well, it's important for them to understand that they do that by putting code or programming them. And the code is basically step by step. So if you see a wall, turn. Then keep moving forward. And that's what the children are learning.
They're doing it by themselves.
To them, it's easy to comprehend. They're not afraid to try it. And as we get older, we do become more intimidated by the technology. But the kids are like, oh, the computer did this, and they'll try something first before they call for help. They're not afraid of it. And that's the beauty of it. They're making connections really easy. They're learning coding really easy, and they don't even realize it's computer language. They've actually learned to build their own little robots, to tell the robot what to do, to use an application that actually makes them write steps or code that will move the characters and have them do whatever it is they want them to do, to pick fruit, to jump ponds. It's really exciting.
I learned that robots still have a brain. You have to control them and tell them what to do. I would say that it's kind of like so fun that I want to stay here forever.
I think a lot of kids lack interest in science, and I think this is helping them, gain interest again in science.
When I'm in college, I know I want to do something that's cool, that I can make a real robot. When I get older, I just want to go to a science lab and make medicines, potions that you have to drink to make you feel better.
I'm just excited. I'm excited that this happened. I'm excited that it's with kinder kids at such a young age. They're learning crazy vocabulary. They're learning what an algorithm is. They're learning what code means. And these are things that you would never think a 5-year-old could learn or could, but they understand.
They're all just wanting to try more, and that's what we want. We want the kids to keep on learning and getting better, so that in the future they can be our next astronaut or maybe a surgeon that uses robotics.
thank you, and sorry again for the technology issue, but I know I want to be in that kindergarten class, right? It's too much fun. You're learning so much stuff, but just imagine the kind of things that our kids, since 5 years old, are exposed to. I think it's gonna set them for life, right? Hopefully, they will continue coming back to school every day and learning new things and great things, and then be very, very successful. We're very fortunate to have very talented and smart students, but also very fortunate to have great teachers. And also, I know all this is also behind the scene. Our CNI department worked really hard to produce and create these camps. So very exciting for our kids and the future of our students and the community of Donna. So that was one of the highlights. I don't know if you saw also there, another highlight is just happened over the weekend. We have because you all watch about the Apollo 11 50th anniversary, right? The moon landing. So NASA, along with other organizations, did like different competitions, and we sent 4 teams. They were from all over the state. 4 teams went to this competition, and actually Salazar Native Space Rangers from Salazar Elementary won first place in the National Social Media Award winner, and they actually they would be traveling to California free of charge. They would be given the opportunity to go to California because of winning first place. And also, our Texas Regional Hub runner-up was actually the Donna High School Redskin Robotics team. So they were second also. They were competing among 18 teams, and they were second. And then the Texas Regional Hub winner was, first place was Stanky Teams Chaos. It's also 1 out of 18. So we pretty much dominated the entire competition. And our students and their coaches and sponsors were able really to achieve great things. So we're very proud of their work. And this happened just this past weekend. And so we'll probably, I don't know, we couldn't get, I guess because this happened over the weekend, we couldn't get the travel, because they traveled to California, out of state. So we'll get that, I guess, somehow. I think they're traveling before our next board meeting. Hopefully we can get that approved for them. But they work very hard. And so this is what I was talking about. It's called the Apollo Next Giant Leap Student Angles. And so that's where our students competed. And so I can just show you a couple of things. So we have Stanky, Salazar, Donna High, and Adami competing. And 3 of them, as you can see, made it the top 1 and 2. And so just for you to know, our students are extremely talented, and then when they are provided the opportunities, they excel, right? And so this is another example of what our students are capable of when they are provided the right opportunities, resources, and also teachers who are working really hard to make sure they're successful. So again, a lot of it is also behind the scene. Our CNI department work really hard to make sure that providing everything our teams need. So this is a picture of them at the competition. They went away, all the way. And this is another picture with our teachers and students in there. And this is them preparing, it's a very well-rounded, I guess, competition. As you can see, they're also using drones and robots. So it's not just a simple competition. It's very advanced level, if you will. And so there them speaking there. Adami. This is our team from Donna High. And this is another picture of them there with their sponsor coach. Them preparing. Salazar, they were the winner, as you can see. And again, this is all the stuff that they work with, and it's a very complex and advanced competition.
Did they make their uniforms?
That's a good one. I'm not sure about that. Did they make it? Do you know if they made? I don't know if they made it or.
They really made it. It's not like they bought these stuff from their pockets. This is hopefully something.
Yeah. But they were like 100%, like they were all in, like they were very much into it, and so they left a very great impression So anyway, so that's another highlight. I know also, I don't know if you saw it, but we've been also getting a lot of, over the summer, we got a lot of recognitions about our BEAM program. You're familiar that our kids are taking, especially in math, they're taking those advanced courses. And over the summer, we have 122 kids who took geometry, pre-AP, pre-calculus, CC credit, and they score with an A or a B. This is over the summer while everybody else on vacation. The kids were actually working hard, and so this is to set them up and give them a head start. A lot of these kids, our kids, are actually eighth graders who took Algebra 1 in middle, and now they took geometry, so when they go to, when they start in a couple of weeks, as freshmen, they would be taking college algebra. So they would be 2 years ahead when it comes to their math program. So we again, for our kids who can, and they have a lot of talent, we're gonna provide those opportunities for them. So that's another great thing. But again, a lot of attention to what we do in here as far as offering advanced programs, and particularly in the math, right? So we got a lot of attention, a lot of people are asking how we doing it and what we're doing. Last but not least, I know there's a lot of talk about our accountability system and what TEA. So TEA did not release our accountability system yet officially. There's an official stuff out there. I know next month in August, I will be sharing with you the official one. But looking at the unofficial overall as a district, as you know, last year we were classified as a C district. We get an overall of a 77, a score of a 77, which is the equivalent of a C. What we predicted, what we're predicting based on preliminary numbers, unofficial numbers, is we'll go from a 77 as a district as overall to an 85. Will become a solid B district. And so that's what we predicting as a whole. I know there's a lot to discuss, and once we becomes official, we have the official data, we will share that with you and obviously with everybody. But it's looking really great for our district, and we're moving upward, right? We're moving forward as a whole, as a group. So thanks to your support and the support and help of everybody working together as a team, from our campuses to central administration to our board members, it looks like, again, we're moving from a 77 a C to possibly an 85 a B, a school district solid B for this based on last year data. But again, we don't want to share too much until we get the official data, because sometimes it may vary slightly, but that's what's looking right now. All right, so moving on to, I think the next item is Lone Star governance. So we're moving to July Lone Star governance monitoring reports. So July, based on our monthly, yearly monitoring calendar, we're supposed to present to our board on goal number 1, and also superintendent constraint number 1. And just a reminder, goal number 1 is to increase the percent of students who are reading K through 2nd or above from 64 to 90% by year 2023. And then we have GPM number 1, GPM 1, 2, and GPM 1, 3, and that breaks it down by grade level. So for kindergartners, for first graders, and then for second graders. So as a whole, for the overall goal, the percentage of kindergarten through second grade, we want that number to go from a 64 to 90% by year 2023. And as you know, as you can see, I'm sorry, we were in the fall at 52%. We went up to 59%. In May, we were 59%, and then we went up to 65%. So we ended up, it says July, but it's really the end of the year data. July, because we reported to our board on July, but technically this is the end of the year. So this is what we call it EOY. So we have 65% of our students are reading on or above grade level, kinder through second. The goal was 70%. So as a whole, as a group, we fell short, but we did improve from the year before. We were at 64%, and this year we ended up at 65%. I just want to emphasize one more time, I know we discussed this last time, that this goal, number one for our board, is a new goal. There was never emphasis on K second, or as much emphasis, I should say, in K second reading on or above grade level. And so this year, after approving our AE local back in September, October, that's when we started like emphasizing more and providing the curriculum and training and things like that. So this year was kind of like the first year, the year to start. I know that we have more to offer and more to do for next school year, including progress monitoring at the regular basis at the campus level, by teacher and by student. So let's break it down by GPMs. So this is for kindergarten. As you can see, our kindergarten student, when they first started with us this year, they were at 47%, went up to 59%, 61%, and then we end up the year by 69. Again, the goal was at 76%. One thing we have to keep in mind is this students here was last year. So this group of students is not in kindergarten anymore. So we're actually looking at a different group of kids. Nevertheless, we fell short of our 76% when it comes to reading on or above grade level. For goal number 2, first graders, students reading on or above grade level, the goal is 63%. We started the year at 50%, went up to 53. It was a small drop here, but eventually we ended up the year at 63%. In this particular case, we met our goal for first grade students. For second grade student reading on or above grade level, we started the year at 57%, and we went up to 62%, and then we improved to 63, and we ended up the year at 64%. Again, we're short of our 70% goal. However, we have to keep in mind that our students here, the second graders, were here. They came to us from first grade, and first grade, they end up the year at 55%. So when they moved to second grade, 55% of them were reading on or above grade level, and so we took that number from a 57 to 64. Obviously, thanks to the work of our teachers and staff and principals and everyone. So again, we're short here, but we're showing a growth. We have more kids. We added more kids reading on or above grade level. Question?
Dr. Easy, I have a question. I know that we have some campuses that are in the dual language in elementary. Did you all see any discrepancies between the kids that are doing the dual language and those that are not, as far as this relates?
I personally, I did not see it. I don't know if you saw anything different, Mr. Rana. I know when we talk, when we even read the research on bilingual education, what they say is like you're not gonna see huge differences initially, but as the kids progress in their education, you're gonna see it jump. You're gonna see it, I think, by like third or fourth grade level. That's what the research, most of the research say. But I don't know if Mr. Rana, if you saw anything different than.
The results are mixed. You should have this one in your package.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
This give you the score
Okay.
by early exit and then simultaneously by literacy. So this
Okay.
Yeah. Usually based on the research that was, yeah, based on the I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr.
No, I see it. I see what he's
Yeah,
saying.
but usually based on the research from the folks who studied bilingual education, they'll tell you bilingual education works, dual language works if it's done correctly, but you won't see it right away. You will see, I guess, when they get stronger and stronger in both languages, that's when you're gonna see a huge difference between non-dual language students and monolingual students. But you will see it, but you won't see it usually at lower grades.
As you see in the simultaneously by literacy, the kindergarten is 63%, and then you see in the first grade is 65%. And then they go to the second grade is at 69%, even above that the early exit. So it's showing the growth, the simultaneously by literacy versus the early exit.
And how many do y'all have doing the dual language? Is it like 6 campuses?
5
only?
campuses,
Five,
and then
five,
we are
okay.
adding this year the pre-K and the kindergarten.
Okay, thank you.
And we're going, yeah, third grade. We're going to all the way to third. Okay, so next steps, we know we have to always celebrate and recognize any achievements, great achievements. We know also we have to continue on. As I said, was the first year that we really make this like an emphasis or a focus in our district, like campus level, but also district level. We kind of started a little late because these goals were adopted or approved late in the game, like I think October, November, where we actually we approved it, and then we start like implementing. So there is a lot more, I guess, training, monitoring. I know, for example, we have to mention that this is the first year also we started our pre-K4 full day program. So we're hoping that the kids who are moving into kindergarten, we're gonna have more of them reading on or above grade level. Also, for this coming school year, we're starting our full day pre-K3 in 7 of our elementary campuses. So all these are strategies, if you will, to help us improve or increase the number of students who are reading on or above level. I know also our CNI worked very hard to also improve and come up with a great curriculum to help our teachers address the needs of our students early on, to make sure that they're reading on or above grade level. So there's a lot of things. As I said, this is just our first kind of trial, and we're learning and we're adjusting, and the goal is to improve and increase the percentage of students who are reading on or above grade level. So also continue, of course, coaching and also making sure that we're looking at teachers and students and see who's gaining or not gaining from month to month. We are developing some tracking system, maybe like using Excel or maybe Google Sheets, that is going to help all of us kind of track how our students are doing, even creating student goals where the students actually can get to set their goals for their reading level, but also track their progress toward achieving that goal. Also continue providing support to teachers on the immersion or developing reader guiding reading protocols, steps, and checklists. So continue always coaching and providing training to our teachers as we are trying to achieve our goals. This is the evidence where we pulled our data mainly from iStation. Some recognitions: we have campuses that already met or exceeded the AE local goals by grade level. So we have Rivas, Salinas, and Salazar. They exceeded the 76% goal. For first grade, we have Guzman, Cáceres, Munoz, and Salazar exceeded the goal set for this year. And then for second grade, we have Cáceres, Munoz, Salinas, and Salazar who exceeded the goals. So great things happening, a lot of great teachers, and I'm always looking at best practice, what our teachers are doing at this particular campus that help them achieve this great scores. So we want to learn from them too and try to duplicate their success. The next one I'm going to discuss with you is the superintendent constraint. And the superintendent shall not hire any new campus principals with fewer than 3 years of demonstrated successful experience in a campus or district leadership role, example, dean or assistant principal. And the percentage of campus principals with fewer than 3 years of demonstrated successful campus district leadership would be maintained at 0 by 2021. And so the 2 principals we hired have more than 3 years of experience. Thus, we are meeting this constraint. So we just need to continue with this current practice as we are filling new vacancies that we have for principalship. Any questions or comments or concerns?
Are we addressing, I noticed, we have 3 and then 4 and kindergarten, first and second grade that met the goals. But what about the other campuses that did not meet the goals?
Yeah, so good question.
Are we addressing those?
Yes, so we are looking at the progress made or not made, and one of the things we were gonna be doing is having this, like what I'm doing in front of you every month, is we want the principals also to have this kind of conversation with their staff and also with me and Mr. Rana and Dr. Aceves, because we want to make sure that they are aware, they are actually knowing what's happening at their campuses. So we're going to hold them accountable. And also, they have to set their goals. Like we have the goals for us. These goals also will be shared. I mean, they have to set them for themselves, for their teachers. That way, will trickle down all the way to the classroom level. And so we are working with them, and we're gonna be holding them accountable. Like, to me, you know, lower grades sets the tone for everything. So if our students reading on or above a grade level by second grade, they are most likely will be successful later on in upper grades, middle school, and high school and beyond. So we need to do everything we can to ensure that our teachers, we have the best teachers out there. They're doing their job. We're supporting them. We're training them, and we are holding everybody accountable. So yes, they will be held accountable, sir.
Dr. Z,
Yes.
on the slide that says next steps, the bullet at the very bottom, providing support to teachers on emergent or developing guided reading protocols, checklist, queuing system.
Yes.
Who would you say are the primary people who are the providing support?
So I mean, I don't know, Mr. Ron, but we have our bilingual education, but also we have our reading ALIR director, and also strategists and coaches. So they are the one who will be like coaching along with the principal and their CSs. So one of the things also we want to do is, and I don't know, you probably read House Bill 3, that the emphasis is on early literacy. We're actually ahead of the game. We actually, the stuff that we're doing, we at least a year ahead of what the legislators decided on us doing, including having a full day of pre-K4. So they're making early literacy. It's a big thing, and they want the principals in all the campuses, along with the teachers, to go what they call like reading academy, and that is not set yet. That's supposed to be set through the region service regions. So through Region 1 in our case. So we were waiting to know when they will be setting those trainings. So once those are set, our teachers, along with our principals, and everyone else who works with students in K through second grade would be going to those trainings and also getting whatever training or materials they need to get to make sure that we get better at what we do.
So as just a follow-up question here. So we have one ELA director, right? We've got one strategist, and how many coaches? You said an ELA director, strategist, coaches, along with the principal and the CS.
So we have more than one strategist, but also remember we have bilingual education, right? So Mr. Ariano, also with his team, they will also be attending all these trainings.
Okay, so if I'm a first grade teacher, who is primarily doing this, providing support on the emergent and developing reader guided reading system? Is that my principal? Is that the strategist? Are they meeting together? What does that look like in our school district?
It's a combination. The principal and the CS and the bilingual education department using the TELPAS and iStation data. So we are also using the TELPAS data to see who our emergent students are, and from there we are seeing if there is a need, the training is provided, and the teacher are monitoring the classroom and provided the guidance and the coaching in the classroom.
So I don't
so
know.
There's it's not just like the principal.
No.
There is like kind of multiple people that a teacher,
Correct.
particularly in these grades, has access to gain skills in this checklist protocol. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes. So
Okay.
the principals, oftentimes the principals are there also like they're there to assist, right, and hold the teacher accountable, but coach them. But our coaches, our strategists, are really doing most of the training, most of the PD. We deliver even the curriculum we write, they are involved with that kind of stuff more than the principals.
Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to add in that same section there, Dr. Z, is that you don't have in here necessarily listed the things that you talked about going on at the pre-K level.
Right.
And so if I just want to note, like, whenever we go to vote this, like, I would want that noted in here as part of your report, that things that are noted, that I guess what I'm saying is to include things in your report that are happening beyond just K-2, but that are strategies that influence what happens in K-2. Okay. So you gave the two examples about the pre-K work.
Right.
So I would just recommend to make sure that those are included in the report, because those are huge programmatic and budget decisions that are very much, like you said, influencing, that we're setting up to influence what happens K1 to 2, but they're just not in the report right now.
Correct.
And I think for this one, I'd want to approve it with those things in there.
Okay.
And then moving forward too. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. We can modify it, and we definitely will tweak it to add those there. But yes, absolutely. Pre-K, full day pre-K 4 is an important component that we started this year, and then pre-K 3 full day will be starting next year. It's also another very important component. So, and that's really to show how, as a district, the emphasis that we're emphasizing early childhood, and we care about that our students start reading on or above grade level by second grade. That sounds good.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Then I need a motion to approve, to accept or reject.
I make the motion to accept.
Motion made by Ms. Dr. Valdez,
I second.
second by Colonel Perez.
Favor.
Favor.
In favor. Motion
In
passes.
favor?
Motion passes.
Thank
3,
you.
Next, we are report from financial advisor Estrada Hinojosa and Company on bond refunding opportunity for substantial interest savings to the district and state. Presenter, Dr. Miguel de los Santos. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
And do we have a time limit for the presentation?
No.
No, there isn't.
I shouldn't take more than 5 minutes or so.
No more than 5 minutes, the gentleman's telling us.
Okay, great.
Ms. Watts, members of the board, thank you very much for the opportunity. Dr. Azai, thank you very much for the opportunity to present these numbers to you. The thing that we have is, one of the things that happens when bonds come every 10 years, there's a possibility of refinancing them if the interest rates are better than they were when you first issued them. And in this particular case, you have a couple of bonds that are eligible for refinancing. If you will look at the first 10 pages are about the firm, and the reason, I'm not gonna go over those, the reason that they're there is some of the new board members that we may not have had experience with, just to orient you to the firm. But I would call your attention to page 8. That is the experience that we have had with the Donna ISD. Every financing that the district has done in the last 20 years, we have had the privilege of being of service to you. There are 2 types of bonds there. Some of them will say unlimited tax school building bonds. Those were new issues. Bond elections were held, the bonds were passed. The others say unlimited tax refunding bonds, and those are refinancings of old bonds because the interest rates were better. If you will add the ones that were new issuances, you will notice that the district in the last 20 years has borrowed $141 million. Okay? If you go with me to page 12, that is the actual debt that you have out there right now, actual debt outstanding. You owe, from that $141 million that I talked about, you owe $71,625,000 if you look at the second column where it says par outstanding. It should be a little bit less because you have a payment coming up August 15th. The highlight in green, there are 2 bonds there that are callable. Third column says amount callable. One of them is a refunding bond. You refunded it probably from 2,000 that were refunded in 2010, and now there are some out there that can be refunded right now for a better interest rate. And then the second one, the $40 million, is a 50-some million dollar bond that we passed in 2010 for the building of Donna North High School. So those are the two bonds that we're talking about today in terms of refunding. Page 13 is a refunding summary. And what you have, this is what tells the whole story. The par amount of the bonds to be refunded is $44,790,000. You want to take out those bonds. They're bonds that are out there at a very high interest rate, and you want to replace them with the refunding bonds. You're taking out $44 million, and the debt new to your books will be $38,720,000. You will owe a lot less money. The net present value savings, if you do this transaction, is about $3.8 million. In present value is the cost of money today, no inflation taken into effect. The percent of refunded bonds is 8.557. That means that if you don't refund the bonds and you continue to pay for them the way you're paying for them, you will have paid 8.5% more than you needed to have paid by doing the transaction. The average annual savings is $242,000, and that is approximate. And the reason that I break it down, because remember that all of your bonds are out there, and the state helps you, and I think it's at about 70%, más o menos. So a large part of the savings goes to the state. The 30% savings goes to the district. Approximately $75,000 would go to the school district in savings. The interest rate, the average coupon out there is 3.9. We would replace that with a 2.89. Now, if you will look at page 14, the page 14 is taking out the large amount. The $40 million that are left over from the Donna North High School are being taken out and replaced by lower interest rate bonds. The second column shows you by maturity. Each line across is a maturity. What the interest rates are out there. The bonds exist at these interest rates. And the next to the last column shows you what the interest rates would be on the refunded bonds. And just to give you an example, the bonds that mature 2/15/21 are out there at 5% right now. We would refinance those bonds at 1.4. And on down the line, so you can see where the savings would be. The second sheet is, like I said, these are bonds from the year 2000, and that's $4 million that's left over from that loan. They are refundable. They're outstanding right now at 4%, and they would all be replaced by bonds at 1.4, 1.5, an average of about 1.5%. So when you take those out, those are the percentages that we're talking about. And if you look at page 16, you're looking at the actual savings in dollars and cents. If you look at the second column, that is the payment that you make on a yearly basis to pay for this $44 million that you have outstanding. If you look at the third column, that is a new payment that you're going to have. And if you look at the shaded green column, that is a savings on a yearly basis that you would save on these bonds. The bottom of the green column says $5,097,000. That is in future savings. In other words, in actual payments that you're making on the bonds on a yearly basis, you will have saved $5 million on these bonds. In summary, the bonds are eligible for refinancing right now. We would recommend, if the board is interested, that we would bring them before the board for action at an August meeting perhaps. And then that would give us like 2 or 3 months. These bonds could be sold sometime in November and taken out at shortly thereafter. So you would be replacing 2010 bonds with 2019 bonds and lowering your interest rate considerably and saving the district a considerable amount of money, and also the state a lot of money. That is a summary of my presentation. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Any questions, board members?
I just have one, and really just a comment. On the 20-year, since 20 years, is this gonna be the number, savings, the percentage over the 20-year mark? Or can we relook it after 10 years, let's say, and say the bond's lower from 1.4 to 1.5%, lower than that?
Well, you might be able to do that, but if you do that, your payment is gonna increase considerably, including money that you would have to put in. It might have an impact on your INS tax rate to generate your share of the payment, and of course, it would have an impact on the state's contribution to it. We've never done, the reason I said might be done, I would have to investigate it. We've never done a transaction like that. The other two things to remember is that all the numbers that I quoted to you are after all expenses. These are, in other words, we make calculations of our cost, underwriter's cost, Attorney General, I mean, there's a lot of costs involved, but those have already been figured in. And then the last item is that you have 20 years out on these bonds. That's the same amount of years that you would have. It's not gonna increase. A lot of times people will go and refinance and extend the number of years to lower their payment. This is not the case. You're 20 years out, it would be for 20 years.
All
Thank you very
you're
much.
doing is refinancing at a lower interest rate.
That's correct. That's correct.
Any other questions?
And,
board members?
well, the rate that you're quoting us right now, is that like a solid number that we can bank on, or is it subject to change?
It is subject to change, depends on the market. These rates, we ran them middle of June. The market had been very stable for the last couple of years. They could go up, they could go down. You could end up with a better deal. One of the things that the board would set, if you choose to go out, you would set parameters. You would say, okay, you said in your presentation that you would save us 8.5%. We want you to go out and sell these bonds. If you can save us at least 5%, which is an industry más o menos standard, let's pull the deal. If you can't, let it ride and see if the interest rates get better and you can save more. But generally, 5% is what we recommend to our clients. If you can save 5%, you're in good shape.
You recommend, but you're recommending 8% though.
No, 8% is what these numbers came up with.
Okay.
But I don't know what the market will be 2 months from
But
now.
it will be at least 5%. Is that what you're saying?
When you approve the order, if you approve the order to move forward with it, you would set it as part of the parameters. It would hold us to, if the deal isn't at least 5%, the market isn't saving us at least 5%, don't pull the trigger until you get to that. In other words, we don't just go out there and get whatever we can. We go out there and get whatever the board feels is a good number.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. De
Thank
Los
you, Dr.
Santos,
De Los
thank you. Next, number 4, discussion and possible action to approve dedication of roadway to the city of Donna Redskin Avenue from FM 493 Salinas Boulevard to Irrigation Canal. We have,
Good evening, Board. My name is Chanel Borrego. I'm the Planning Department Director.
welcome.
I'm here to just basically ask for a dedication of roadway. The reason being is that in order for the city to provide any improvements on the property, it must be owned by the city. So if we were to do the dedication, transfer over the property to the city, we could begin doing paving improvements, detention improvements, sewer as well, with your approval. I don't know if there's any questions regarding it.
And the city will take care of the whole building?
Yes,
Is that
once
what
it's
you're saying?
dedicated to the city would take ownership and would completely
The moment
renovate the
and
property.
how long will it be right after that, if we were to do that route? What is the status?
I know the detention improvements are supposed to be done within the next few months.
Okay.
As far as paving a roadway, that's something I would have to discuss with the city manager, to see what funding is available for that.
Chanel, can I ask a question to Danielle real quick?
Any questions?
Hey, Danielle, quick question. So, we approve everything. Do you think you'd be able to start working on some of that area all the way to the stadium? So we can just get that road a little bit wider and get it?
Yes, I think we should start working on, I think we had a little bit of funding there left over from business, from Salinas to the entrance to the football stadium. We can probably work in that area
And then down the line, you can finish that up. Just to open it up, and that way we can have, I know that it floods there.
Yes.
And I know the improvement is, part of the infrastructure and part of the sewer that you're looking
We're
at.
gonna put a drainage and paving and garbage in the site, so we're gonna improve a little bit more the street. We'll have the school for traffic too later on in the future.
Yeah.
You know, one of my concerns is, we talked about this earlier, was that school starts, roughly 4 weeks. And last year, when they were doing some work on the drainage, I mean, it created a big, issue with parents picking up their kids. We had to reroute them, we had to do all this, you know, and, I think Mr. De Los Rios and I were talking about it, that, you know, this is something that we would like to see, if possible. I mean, we don't have an issue, I mean, I don't have an issue, you know, dedicating the roadway to the city. It's a win-win situation. But, you know, one of the issues that I do have is, I don't wanna run into that situation that we had, parents having to be rerouted around the stadium, and, you know, it created a big issue last year, you know, and like I said, we've had all summer long, you know, I thought this was a done deal. You know, we should have we had agreed that, or, you know, at least we had, that this was gonna be done during that downtime that we have between, June and August, you know.
Yeah, but I
now,
think something came out with the paperwork and we didn't have the easement.
I think the documentation that was provided to you last year wasn't correctly written.
right,
And, you know, and not in their defense, but I think that now that they're able to pave, they got their machines and everything, I think they'll be able to work a little bit faster. They just gotta dedicate themselves and make sure, but, I mean, that's the only thing, Danny. You know, the school's gonna start in a couple of weeks, and we're just,
Yes,
whatever
and,
miracle you can
we're
make
slowly-
happen there,
Yes.
if you can make it real quick, it'd be good for us.
Yes, we can.
Is there any other questions from the
No.
board?
What is the savings, for us as a district if we were to, do that?
Well, I mean, currently the roadway belongs to the school, so the school would be in charge of having to do any paving or improvements on the property. If we take it over and we start doing the improvements, you're saving $20,000 for each improvement that's being done. That's just for paving. 30,000 usually is approximately for the drainage detention improvements that are being done on the property. And then upkeep's about 10,000 a year.
So how much have we spent in the last year or two on the roadways, currently?
The
On
district,
the improvements and those, on rescue?
Right. I mean, cause right now, you're saying that the roadway, if we were to get to the city, we have a savings, correct? Whatever amount that we're saying we could possibly save.
In the long term, as far as paving the actual property. But that's done every maybe 10, 20 years. It's not really done on an annual basis.
so like the potholes that are there right now, Robert,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
they'll
over
go in there and they'll fill it in, but I mean, really entirely,
Well, the issue that I have is those fill-ins, and I'll tell you why. Because, I mean, if you go across the city as a whole, I know this is now school property that you're gonna, paying attention to, but if you go across the city and you're just filling up potholes, they just, after it rains, they just go away. So we go back to square one, and we continue to have the same issues within the city to help us obviously fill those gaps. And that's what I'm concerned about, that, you know, consistency of what we fill in, it was be a permanent fixture, not a temporary fixture. Does that make sense?
the problem is that that property that's on that road, a lot of it's commercial, so no one wants to develop it because there's no sewer, there's no infrastructure on there. So in order for us, it's a win-win situation for both of us because there's a apartment complex that the housing authority is building, then there's a proposed subdivision there. So everyone that moves there, it's gonna be beneficial because that's new families that are gonna come in and roll into our school district. So
No, I understand. I
they're
got
gonna
that.
have to
I
do a
got
lot
that.
of work up there.
Just again, it goes to the city's ability to support it as it does the rest of the city.
Well, at the moment, we are doing a lot of pothole coverings, but if we did take it over, it would be a whole new paving, so you would start from the
From zero.
beginning, no moves.
Brand new.
I know that one of the things that, you know, that I've looked at is, there's been a lot of improvements, because I think that didn't Wood Avenue become, didn't we transfer to the, part of it to the city?
Yes, an
And
easement was
maybe,
transferred.
I mean, the roadway between 493 and the high school, I mean, they've paved that and it's really smooth. I mean, it's a great road. We have a lot of traffic, especially during football season. That's the other thing, is that football season is right around the corner. You know, we're gonna have a lot of traffic. That's why I think we mentioned at least have some type of exit strategy toward 493 for now. And in the future, we'll have exit strategy toward the canal, or Canal Road, or Canal Street for now. I think, you know, as Mr. De Los Rios mentioned, that's a win-win for the district. You know, we won't have to be maintaining that. And, you know, if you look at Redskin Avenue right now, there hasn't been any type of maintenance on that road in years.
Correct.
You know, every once in a while, I think they get out there and scrape it, and that's it. So.
Any other questions?
It's a good, I think it's a good win-win deal for the school.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and come back with a deed transfer, and we'll go ahead and have your attorney review that before anything's signed off on.
So it's a
motion.
motion.
I make the motion to approve.
I vote in favor also?
Favor?
Favor?
In favor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I made the motion, she second.
Okay.
Favor, everybody else is in favor.
Motion passes. Okay. Do we go to open forum?
Do we have any lucky contestants today?
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Okay, for open forum, we have Kristen Keith. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Good evening. I just wanted to bring up, I have a master's in curriculum and instruction with triple literacy. And when Dr. Aziz was talking about the guided reading and the reading development of our elementary students, having had experience being in elementary school previously as a teacher and also through my program, one of the things that I want to emphasize is that research, and I don't have the research with me right at this moment, but research shows that the number one thing that our struggling readers need to do that they are not doing is reading. So I just want to bring that to your attention. It's very important that we don't just emphasize for our struggling readers all of the inferencing, the comprehension questions. They need to read. That is the number one thing that they're not doing. I would also encourage the district to come up with a plan to create a partnership with parents. You know, HEB has at times promoted 3 each week, you know, reading 3 stories with your children each week. That is another additional factor that improves a child's reading ability when someone at home reads with them. So one thing I did when I taught 5th grade was I encouraged my students to read to their younger siblings. It was a dual benefit. It not only helped the younger siblings because somebody was reading to them, but it was also beneficial to my students as 5th graders to improve their reading level. And if, you know, that's something that the district looked into, I would love to be involved with that. I'm not just saying, hey, do this, and I'm not putting my feet on the ground. But I think that a lot of parents are unaware of what a simple thing this can do and the major impact it can have on their child's education. So I think that that's something that if, you know, since this is a goal for our district and a school board goal, I really think it's important that we create some sort of plan with parents involved, with students involved, you know, maybe even having the older students go and read to the younger students, just things that we can create that community and that environment of learning, but also to make reading fun for our students. When they enjoy it, they will become better, and the more exposed to it they are. But the biggest emphasis that one of the biggest takeaways that I came away with from my master's program was that our struggling readers are not reading enough. And I experienced that myself as a teacher because the emphasis was on, well, they don't have these inferencing skills, they don't have these comprehension skills. If they can't read, they're not going to get those. Those come later. So we really need to work on emphasizing creating that reading environment for our students. And if we do that at the kinder through 2nd level, it's just going to be beneficial across the board. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay.
Next, we have consent agenda. Any questions or clarifications on the consent agenda?
Make the motion that we approve.
Second. Motion by Mr. Del Rio, second by Dr. Valdez.
Favor.
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 I also vote in
Favor.
Motion passes. Okay, next, we have the governance, and for number one, we have the board attestation, discussed by Mrs. Reina.
Hi, you all. I requested that we pull the board attestation. Specifically, so if you all go to the list of bullet points, I just had one thing for discussion. And wanted to see what y'all's thoughts were on one particular piece of the attestation. So at the very, very bottom of the list of bullet points, it says, all board members and the superintendent agree that none of the board members have given operational advice or instructions to staff members. So when I read that, I kind of was like, my reaction was, I don't know if any other board members have given operational advice or instructions to staff members. So I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on that. Like, as you go to sign that, what are your thoughts on that statement and how we would know or not know, or do you just sign it saying you didn't? Like, what are y'all's thoughts on that part of it?
Crickets.
Well, Alicia.
Yes.
Alicia, I personally, if there's any concern or question, if I'm approached, I usually will refer to their, the individual to their supervisor. And I just let the superintendent address any business that he, or district operations. So,
but when you sign this, Dr. Mary, are you just signing this saying like, okay, I haven't, or do you feel like there needs to be some kind of like other step where we have a view on like, did any of us? You see what I'm saying?
yes, I understand what you're saying, and I had the same question. How do we know each of us are complying with this? That's, how do we know that? That's what you're asking, right?
Yes, I'm just curious. That was my reaction when I read that bullet point, and just wondered what others folks thought about that part.
Well, Alicia, if you're talking about specific items, I think there's two parts of this. One is the superintendent saying, yes, he is agreeing with that all board members have not come to him on that issue of operational advice and instructions. So by the superintendent adhering to that, he's agreeing with all of us that we have not done that. So I think as it's stated, to me, it's clear for me. I'm not sure if it's for you, but for me, it's fine. The way it's written.
Oh, so you see it, okay, yeah, that's helpful. That's helpful, Mr. Perez. You saw it as not only us, but if the superintendent agrees, that means that nobody has kind of come to him as well with the operational advisor.
Correct, because we added both him and obviously the rest of the board members. That's the way I see it, anyway.
Okay. Okay, so does everybody, let me just say this. So does everybody feel comfortable saying like, okay, part of this is like, when I sign this, I'm saying I haven't. And then when the superintendent signs it, he's saying that nobody has given him operational advice or instructions. Is that fair, accurate? Does
That's the way I see it, yes. That's why I see it. I don't know if the rest of the board does, but that's why I see it.
What about everybody else?
I agree to that.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that, Alicia.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was wondering.
All right.
That's all I got on that one.
All right, thank you. Now, number 2, we have the conservative monthly report for May and June. Mrs. Romero.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Aziz. I do have the May and June, but I thought I'd just go ahead and look at the June pretty much and refer to some of May. On the financial accountability, Mrs. Cancino's pretty much on target with everything, about the only thing still pending is the centralized purchasing, but she is working on that personnel, and we're waiting for direction from the new assistant superintendent for personnel on that position. And then if you go on to the governance, again, pretty much everything is on the governance side, from the Lone Star governance, everything pretty much is on target. There's a couple of things that you have not started, but they will, I mean, you're either working on them or they're gonna come about soon. So like the two-way system of communication is one of those that has not started. Now I did mark one of those wrong on the time tracker. I did say you were on track, but it was only 37%. That really is off track. So we do need to work on that. That's on the timeline that's spent on student outcome goals and so forth. The Lone Star governance has specific percentages that you have to spend on that. The Lone Star training implementation, I have that slightly off track only because what I'm seeing that happens during May and June, I did see some overreach by some of the board members into the superintendent's duties on BJA policy regarding recommendations and terminations. And those are things and specific duties that are his, and I saw him as overreach into that area. Also in June, what I saw also was the evaluation process for the superintendent. It seemed like a couple of board members were just not willing to work as a team. I know you got it resolved, but it was a long hurdle for that process. But it's been done, and we're moving forward. The other activities are pretty much on target. I know that the addressing of the new staffing ratios, they're slightly off, but those are things that I was aware of because he's tweaking what TASB gave him. And that is pretty much it, unless somebody has some questions regarding this.
I do, ma'am. One
Sure.
question on the time tracker calibration. There's two things that I see different from my perspective. One of which is if we're gonna use a time tracker as a measuring point for percentages, we can do that. But there's other items, for example, in the open forum that we use that I think we shouldn't be counting into a time tracker. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. However, I think those are already set in by the Lone Star governance as to what can be counted and what cannot be counted.
Yeah, I think it's something that we probably need to approach with AJ and
Right.
obviously with Dr. McMahon to include your time, because sometimes that affects our processes.
I
when we're
know
focused
my
on that.
time has been an issue.
Robert,
No.
can I say something?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect question, as you're stealing my thunder for my report.
Oh.
There was a House Bill 2840 that was passed in the last legislative session that deals with when you allow people for public forum and limitations to time limits and limitations to numbers. My recommendation is that we meet in the future to look at a readjustment of your agenda, because the House bill states that community members must be given the opportunity to speak prior to or during an agenda item. And that will greatly reduce, and LSG director has determined that because that is now in statute, that time will be removed from the time tracker.
Awesome. Good segue.
Is that all, Mrs.?
Anything else?
If that's it, unless you all have any other questions.
Nope.
Any questions?
One question, Ms. Almeida, can you just restate when, all I heard was like overreach and then superintendent BJA duties. Can you say that part again? Overreach of what specifically, and when was it?
Well, it was overreach was regarding recommendations and terminations. And I view you as you are in executive session. And I noted that while it was happening. Not that it came to pass, but I see overreach in that area, which means you're just, there, a couple of you are going a little too far into it.
Is there a way to, and I'm sure you don't in the moment say something, but is there a way to help make it clear for folks when they are overreaching? Because I'm just wondering if there's some things where, just to be clear about, like, this is what you did or said that was overreaching regarding recommendations and terminations, and here's what it would look like for it not to be. Is that possible in any way to get with those individual board members? Because I just think about sometimes that folks don't intend to, or, you know what I'm saying? Is there a way to be really clear about that feedback, either like in the moment or with specific board members? Or maybe you've already done that.
Well, no, I haven't. When there were comments and said, okay, what are we doing about this person? Shouldn't we terminate this person and so forth? I really think there should be a termination on this, or this person being terminated. And really, the superintendent's the one that makes the recommendation to terminate. And then you get to approve it, but let the superintendent do the recommendation.
May I ask a question? Is this something that's happening in executive or just in the general community, like in other meetings outside of executive?
This happens in executive.
It's executive, and I don't want to get into specifics.
Yeah, we don't
No.
we just want to be careful about that.
That's right, but Mrs. Reyna had asked.
It's a violation there. You've got to be very careful with that, so you shouldn't be talking about it in general. I mean, that should have been brought in executive, not out here publicly.
Okay.
You know, so, you know, I think it'd be better if we just,
I can bring it into it.
and then we talk about it there.
I also want to add, if we look at the last page of your report, I mean, I'm looking at the positive things. Last year on academic accountability, we were at a C. We are now at a B rating. On financial accountability, last year we were at an F. We are now probably projected to be back at an A. So those are two very strong, positive progression for the school district.
I
So
agree. I
those
do
are awesome.
anticipate your first rating to be higher, but until it comes out in August,
Yeah, okay.
I don't really have anything.
It's just projection, I guess.
Yes.
Projection. Right. So those are two good, positive.
And you're correct, but I haven't seen any really rating. Also in August, you'll get the rating on accountability.
Right.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Now we move on to executive session. The time is 7:15. We'll be going into executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code Section 55.1071, .072, .073, .074, .075, .076, .082, .083, and .084. Take possible action on matters discussed in executive session. A, discussion and possible action to approve superintendent's recommendation of personnel. Approval of recommendation for professionals, paraprofessional, auxiliary personnel is discussed in executive session. I need a motion for that.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. De Los Rios, second by Mr. Guerrero.
Favor.
Favor.
In favor?
Motion passes. Approval of.
Favor.
Motion passes.
Oh, late.
Approval of
Sorry.
recommendation for proposed non-renewal of term contract, no action. Approval of recommendations for proposed termination of probationary contracts, no action. Approval of recommendations for chapter 21 term and probationary Contract renewals, no action. Discussion, B, discussion and possible action to approve board self-evaluation is discussed in executive session. I need a motion on that, please.
So move. I approve.
Second.
David, Mr. De Los Rios, motion, second by Dr. Valdez.
Favor.
In favor.
Favor.
Also vote in favor, motion passes. C, discussion and possible action regarding proposed settlement of Cordova versus Donna ISD. As discussed in executive session. Motion to approve negotiations as discussed in executive session. I
So
need a
moved.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, you have to ask for a motion.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Dr. Berry, second by Mr. Guerrero. How do you vote?
In favor.
Favor.
Also vote in favor.
I abstain.
I abstain.
Motion passes. Okay, D, discussion and possible action to approve pending or completed litigation settlement matters and or matters where the professional duty under state board requires private consultation with the school attorney, no action. I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Del Rio, second by Dr. Valdez.
In favor.
Favor.
In favor, also vote in favor, motion passes. Meeting
Okay,
adjourned.
thanks, everyone. Good
All right,
work.
good night.
Thank you.
Bye, good night.
Likewise, thank you for joining us, Alicia.
Thank you.